Hello, everybody. Welcome to this lesson. Now, in this lesson, I'm going to just dive a little bit deeper into a topic we touched upon briefly, which is the difference between generative AI and agentic AI. Now, both Gen AI and agentic AI are tools that offer amazing productivity benefits to companies and people. But it's important to differentiate between the two and how each of them works a little bit differently and where the overlap happens. Because I've seen a lot of times people get confused about like how these two things differ. So this is what we're going to be covering in this lesson. Basically, the differences between generative AI and agentic AI, and when to use which, because there are different use cases for each type of AI which we are talking about here. So we've already covered agentic AI, right? That I've talked before that the agentic AI describes those AI systems that can like work autonomously, which is without human oversight. They can make decisions, act with the ability, they can like pursue complex goals with very limited supervision. So, and at the end of the day, it might be using some sort of LLM or Gen AI at the back end for reasoning. But the main thing it gives its autonomy. It doesn't need a human being to be prompting it, to keep asking it questions. So this is how it solves those complex goals, right? Like we talked about, it has a reasoning layer. It understands, it perceives what the problem is, it breaks it down, and then solves it all without human interaction being there. When we talk about generative AI, now generative AI, it refers to a subset of AI, right? And like models and techniques that are designed to create or generate new content, such as images, text, music, even videos, right? I mean, anybody who has been on the internet knows about ChatGPT, Gen AI, how the world changed after late 2022. Unlike traditional AI models that used to be there that were trained to recognize and classify existing data, generative AI, it changed the game, right? Because it's capable of producing new content. And usually these models, they are trained on like deep learning algorithms, and they learn from this data, and they understand the statistical relationship between the text, between the images, and once trained, they can now generate new content, right? So this is where the focus is. Like this is how basically it looks like, right? You have these foundational models. These are like basically machine learning models that are trained on a large amount of data, and it's once it's trained, it understands like the what do you call the statistical relationship between the data. It understand what the data look like, and now it can generate new data which you use typically through prompts. So you're prompting it, hey, write me this article, generate this image, generate this video. Because it has been trained on terabytes and terabytes of data, this uses it to generate new content. So this is what generative AI is. So this is the like in a quick table you can look at the difference which is there. The agentic AI focus on autonomy. Generative AI focus is on content. Agentic AI, it can solve problems and execute multi-step strategies all without human input. And generative AI, it can analyze vast amounts of data and find patterns which it uses to generate like new types of data. So one very important thing now, agentic AI does a lot of times use generative AI like a large language model, like something like ChatGPT at the back end for reasoning. But what it does, it adds layers and layers on top of it. It allows it to break it down, make decisions, make automations, right? So this is like we talked about the perceive, reason, acting, and learning. So that thing is there, but the main thing is autonomy. And with generative AI, it's usually focusing on content. And again, generative AI, it might have some level of autonomy. A lot of applications you see, like they have some sort of autonomy where you have a generative AI, it's talking to people, it's calling API. So like sometimes there's this overlap which is there, but I just want you to understand. So when to use agentic AI? Agentic AI is best used when you require like the AI to act by itself, right? Autonomy. You want it to be autonomous, make decisions and execution rather than just content creation. So like I'm a security guy. So let's talk about some cybersecurity use cases. Like a company wants to implement something which does real-time automated threat detection and response, right? They want to cut down on their SOC team costs. They can probably use agentic AI to monitor security logs. It will detect anomalies. It can then take action. It can isolate compromised accounts and automatically execute security playbooks. You might be thinking, hey, these things are already there. Well, agentic AI will take it to the next level because it can break it down. It can make decisions similar to what a human being would make decisions, right? This is basically taking it to the next level. Similarly, automated IT operations. You can have an agentic AI detecting silver failures, predicting downtime, restarting services, allocating services autonomously. Again, you might be saying, hey, don't we have these things like load balancers? But again, agentic AI is all about taking it to the completely next level, almost reducing the human element which is there, right? So this is where you would be using agentic AI. Now, when to use generative AI? This would be suited for more like things like content creation, enhancement, rather than autonomy. So a marketing team wants to like generate weekly blog posts. This is where you would use something generative AI, Claude or Chat GPT. Or you have a team which want to do software development. Now you need assistance in writing or debugging code. Again, generative AI, right? To generate code snippets, something like Q Developer from Amazon, GitHub Copilot, Amazon, Microsoft's Copilot, those sort of things would come into play. So this is like a short lesson, which because I want it to be very clear. Sometimes I've seen people get confused between the two, and I want you to have this absolute difference between agentic AI and generative AI before we talk about security. So I hope this was useful to you, and I'll see you in the next lesson.